the leader in talk radio on the Internet, right here on K98Talk.com.
If you want to work until you keel over, have less of everything in retirement, or give back more of your hard-earned money to the stock market again, then just ignore me. But if you'd like to protect the money you save, receive a steady, predictable retirement income, and enjoy financial security for as long as you live, then listen to this. You can download a free report that reveals the wealth-building secrets Wall Street and the banks don't want you to know. You'll learn how you can get guaranteed growth, safety, and real prosperity without risking your money in the Wall Street casino, and how to get the money you need when you need it, simply by asking for it. This is the best way to have a 100% secure retirement and know your money will last as long as you do. To learn more about this method and to get your free report, go to 29security.com. That's the number 29security.com. 29security.com. Go to 29security.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
In these uncertain economic times, you've got to do whatever you can to save money. One of our biggest expenses can be our cars, especially when unexpected repair bills hit. Not anymore. If you own a vehicle with less than 130,000 miles, is less than 12 years old, has a warranty about to expire, or even no warranty at all, you could stop paying for car repairs. Roadside assistance, towing, and rental coverage are all included. Don't wait for the next repair. Make one free call right now to see if you qualify. If your vehicle is less than 12 years old, has less than 130,000 miles, even if it's out of warranty, paying for car repairs can become a thing of the past. Call us right now and get your car protected before your next repair bill hits. Get protection and no more repair bills. Call 800-696-1030. Again, 800-696-1030. That's 800-696-1030. 800-696-1030.
All right, folks, this is Rick Robinson with you. I want to tell you about some friends of mine from a company called Security Enforcement Specialists. When I ran my security agency for 12 years, I worked with one of these partners on a daily basis. He's been involved in this agency now, and with his other partner, they do have over 30 years of experience in the private security industry. If you own a business and you need someone to keep you or your customers or residents safe, then I highly recommend contacting Security Enforcement Specialists today. Give them a call at 405-703-1796. Again, that's 405-703-1796. Again, tell them Rick from K98 Talk sent you. Like I said, if you need the help, they are here for you. So make sure that you go look them up, check them out, and see what they can do.
Wrong way. Welcome to the place.
Joe had huge problems with the IRS.
I knew it was coming. I hadn't filed taxes since 1990.
All the IRS letters coming in added up to a nightmare.
It got up to like $68,000. My heart started beating fast. It's like, there's no way, man. I mean, I ain't going to be able to do this.
Then they stopped his paycheck.
So that's when I started making phone calls and found U.S. Tax Shield.
U.S. Tax Shield went to work immediately.
They just took the bull by the horns. What blew my mind is he called the IRS right then and there.
So why is U.S. Tax Shield A+ rated with the Better Business Bureau? Joe knows.
They saved me a ridiculous amount of money.
If you owe more than $10,000 to the IRS or state, choose the company Joe chose, U.S. Tax Shield.
It was the best decision I made. U.S. Tax Shield is the way to go. Life is good. Thank you, Lord.
Call 800-471-3287.
U.S. Tax Shield. Boo-rah. Yes.
800-471-3287. 800-471-3287.
The Internet will never be the same. You're listening to K98Talk.com.
Whoa! Good God, y'all. What is it good for? Absolutely.
Get ready to fight from within. You're about to go behind enemy lines on K98.
Roger, 3-2. Reliance copies all. Go ahead. Target is surrounded by multiple firms entering what appears to be a residential area. Requesting permission to engage. Over.
From the People's Republic of New York City, you're now going behind enemy lines with Gene Baradelli and Russ Gallo.
And you are now behind enemy lines. Hey there, how you doing, America? Gene Baradelli, Russ Gallo here. Russ, how you doing, man?
What's going down, bro?
Listen, I still got my voice after CPAC. Things are looking up right now.
It's a shocker.
It's a big shocker. You know what that means? It means I didn't drink enough, but we both know that's contrary to actual fact.
Oh, I heard there's a video.
There is a video. We're not going to mention it any further, though.
We should play it.
Let me tell you something. I was hurting after our unsustainable bar tab party at CPAC 2016, man. And when I say hurting, I mean like moaning and groaning, unconsciously hurting.
And it was a blast as usual. If you don't follow us on Twitter, you absolutely should. And if you're at CPAC, this party goes on every year. It's free.
It's a little late to tell them this now, Russ.
But start following us on Twitter and follow the tweets of CPAC. And we always unleash the time and location of the party during CPAC. And it's a blast.
It's the best underground party ever. Russ and I developed this idea about 3 years ago with Congressman Steve Stockman, now former congressman, where we just put it out there on the sly, man, on the DL. You gotta know somebody to get in there. It's a great time.
And to be honest, you know, like how every other party says, it'll start at 7 p.m. and it ends at question mark. Ours literally ends when security comes, because that's what's happened every year so far.
And we never know when they're gonna come. And listen, credit where credit's due. Brad Marston, John LaRosa from 4-Tier Strategies, fantastic as always for letting us white label their party hashtag Unsustainable Bar Tab. It's their creation, their baby, and they've trusted it with us for 3 years. I don't know what they're thinking, but you know what? And also thanks to Tea Party Forward and Niger Innes for sponsoring the party this year as well. We're growing like crazy, and we're going to give you some of the interviews from CPAC later on in our CPAC recap. But just a couple of things. Because Russ, you got there a little late. CPAC's getting younger and younger every year, and we're getting older, man.
Younger and younger, but it's a blast, man. You have people of all ages, and from the whole spectrum of the right of center part of this, all parts of the spectrum there, and it's literally a blast. I mean, if you're a Republican, if you're right of center, even if you're just a moderate kind of person, or if you're an extremely conservative person, you will find people to have interesting conversations with at CPAC. From behind enemy lines in the People's Republic of New York City, you can't say that here. You go to a bar and start talking about politics, you better have like a bat with you, because it just gets out of control over here.
Absolutely. And I just noticed in our chat room, of course, Brad Marston's in there, but we got to give a shout-out to our good friend. We don't see him that much because he's in the Navy. Brian Antico in the chat room with us. Got to give him a shout-out. Just point to him by name, man. He is... I don't know if I'm allowed to say where he is, but he just said it himself. He's in Gitmo. People... you want to talk about behind enemy lines.
Still open for business, I see.
Brian Antico is in Guantanamo Bay listening to the show right now. God bless you, brother. We hope you're safe. We hope you're doing good. We will talk to you real soon. Get home safe, man. The beer's on us when you get home. But just very quickly on CPAC, because we got so much to talk about tonight. We're going to have interviews with Ambassador John Bolton, with Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn, with Scotty Hughes talking some Trump and some other stuff.
I love Scotty.
Oh, I love Scotty too, but she's a little mad at me, Russ. She's mad. I forgot the cannolis. We'll get to that later. But just so much happening. First, CPAC and primary news thrown together. Donald Trump snubbed CPAC, did not show up, said he was going to. They gave him the first opening speaker spot of Saturday, didn't show up. I need to get the Gallo take on that.
At the end of the day, it was a smart move. Listen, he's got primaries. I mean, the proof is in the pudding tonight. He went where the voters were. There were primaries being held that day that he was supposed to speak. Yeah, you could say the conservative base of the party's at CPAC. Look, there's only a few thousand people there from all over the country at CPAC. It was a setup to begin with, if you think about it. You were there earlier than I was. What were the Marco supporters getting ready to do?
Marco supporters and the Cruz supporters were talking about a walkout and talking about booing them down. But beyond that, and Scotty Hughes will get into this into the interview we had, you're talking to the converted at CPAC. Those are people who definitely voted. They decided whom they're voting for, and that's that. They're probably not changing any minds. I think, and Scotty will go into this. I almost called her Skahati, which is what do you call her in private, but whatever. That Donald Trump looked more interested in turning voters, broadening the base, doing what he does, than he was to go into CPAC talking to a bunch of people who've already made up their minds.
Look, at the end of the day, it was a strategic decision, and I think it was the right one. I mean, look, he's whooping butt tonight. So they were recording this. It's Tuesday night, and there's primaries in Mississippi and Michigan. Both were called so far for Donald Trump.
With more to come, most likely.
Yeah.
And we're going to see what else is to come here tonight.
I heard Marco Rubio's getting ready to give his fourth-place victory speech. Is that going to happen again?
Well, isn't that what always happens? Marco Rubio's going to spin it around and be like, he is the best candidate out there.
Because I know Fox News is doing its usual. Megyn Kelly, that.
Well, we're looking right now when Trump's over, close to 250,000. Casey's at 170,000.
But they're doing their usual spin of the real battle here is for second place.
The real battle
How
for fourth.
about the real battle is Donald Trump is whooping that ass all across the country?
First.
All right, look, I've said it a million times. I really wish Ted Cruz would be the president of the United States. I think the guy is brilliant. He's a true conservative.
I got to tell you, Russ, at CPAC, during one of our shows, our live shows that we did for WNJC 1360, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, I came out for Cruz finally.
Well, there you go.
So, I mean it's out there.
You always come out for a loser just in time, so that's good.
Thank you.
But at the end of the day, the real story is Donald Trump. The guy... let's talk briefly about Donald Trump, since we have a moment before we get to these interviews.
We have a moment, yes.
So Donald Trump, how is it possible that he's beating Ted Cruz and winning in a primary season where typically your most conservative voters are voting? Why is he winning?
It's the hair.
Well, it's clearly not the hair. It might have something to do with the hair. It's that, and he mentioned this in his speech tonight, finally, and I'm glad he is acknowledging it. And the guy's brilliant. He knows what he's doing. It's political correctness. How many men in this country think things all the time, and women too for that matter, but are afraid to say it? Things about sexual harassment. If you have a job and you have to sit through some sexual harassment briefing, and if you're a man, you're just sitting there like, wow, this is just like basically saying all men are animals and disgusting. Or an equal opportunity briefing at your workplace, where if you're a white male, you're just sitting there thinking, wow, all white men are pretty bad. They're racist, sexist, homophobic, bigots, and it's a mess. Well, Donald Trump doesn't play by those rules. He says the things inside of his head that all of us are thinking and says them. Is there a person listening to me right now that doesn't think a terrorist captured on the battlefield doesn't deserve to be waterboarded to get intelligence out of him if we have it on good authority that he knows something that we need to get access to?
I mean, we may be 1 degree of separation from somebody who's doing that right now as we speak, listening to the show. Just kidding, Brian.
But there's not... most Americans don't see anything wrong with that. So Donald Trump goes up there and says, yes, I will give the order to waterboard, and worse. And guess what, folks? Deep down, Most Americans think that waterboarding ain't that bad and that we should do worse too. So Donald Trump is tapping into something there.
I think Donald Trump is tapping into a lot of things. That's part of it. The political correctness is definitely become a wedge issue. It's the Russ Gallo theory of politics. You create a wedge, people are going to break on one side or the other side of the wedge, and most of the time they're going to break your way if it's a good wedge for the conservative movement. But beyond that, by doing that, Donald Trump is bringing in more voters. Turnout is increased across the board.
Every primary so far has huge turnout in the Republican side, and abnormally small turnout for the Democratic side. So Donald Trump is doing what the Republican Party for decades now has been claiming that they wanted to do. They wanted to create a big tent party where they create new Republicans from new segments of the population. Well, guess what Donald Trump is doing? He's getting people to vote. You'll have a lot of people say, well, he's doing real well in states where independents are allowed to vote. But when we get to the places where it's winner take all and only Republicans
vote. Isn't that what you want?
Yeah, well, listen, at the end of the day, should independents be choosing our candidates? No. But it's a good indication of where this man will go in a general election. If independents are voting in our primaries for Donald Trump in overwhelming numbers, guess where they're going to go?
In the
general.
Absolutely right. I tend to agree with you on that. And I think most independents lean conservative anyway, but I think you're going to get even more now if you have someone with a populist message. Now, that's not to say that Ted Cruz can't tap into something in the later states and turn this around. I don't know what the delegate count's going to be coming out of Michigan and Mississippi and Hawaii and all these other places. But I will say this, it's may not be close state-wise, but we're only talking about a less than 100-vote gap between Cruz and Trump before tonight.
Delegate vote.
Yeah. I mean, that's what counts at the end of the day.
The problem is this, though. At the end of the day, most people, when they were trying to figure out where we would be at this point in the game, would have said that Donald Trump had no business winning any southern states, especially the Deep South, evangelicals, type people. But at the end of the day, Trump is whooping that ass with evangelicals, too. Even tonight, on the exit polls, Trump won the evangelical vote in Mississippi. So listen, again, I love Ted Cruz. I think he's the more conservative of the two. But Trump is on to something here.
Trump is on to something because he recognizes that voters are not one-issue voters anymore. The so-called evangelical vote is not just about evangelicalism. It's about fiscal conservatism as well. It's about jobs. It's about the economy. It's about change in Washington. It's not just God and God. And Donald Trump treats people like they are people, not like they are people that fit into a box. You know what I mean?
On every issue, and you got to know how a guy like Donald Trump thinks. He's a successful guy from New York, a businessman. You don't negotiate, and I've said this for years on this show. You don't negotiate by starting from the middle. You start on an extreme, and then other politicians and the pundits will say, well, he's flip-flopping on a lot of issues. No. You start at an extreme. We're going to build a wall, and Mexico is going to pay for it. So, at the end of the day, let's say Mexico doesn't pay for it. Who gives a rat's ass? The wall got built. You start at an extreme position and work your way back. And that's what Donald Trump is doing on every issue that conservatives care about.
Isn't that what Ronald Reagan did when he said that we're going to build a space station in space that's going to shoot down missiles?
Star Wars.
Didn't
even have the technology for it back then.
Didn't John F. Kennedy say that when he said we're going to go to the moon?
You start
broad ideas,
and you let them pull you back. And when they pull you back, they think they won something. When in reality, and Trump said this in a few times in interviews. When you're doing negotiations, you put out a bunch of demands, a bunch of them are throwaways that you don't care if they go for or not, but you have something to give them to make them think they got something out of you. But at the end of the day, you got what you wanted. Every issue he speaks about, that's the tactic he's using.
Time to go to the chat room for some comments here. By the way, folks, when we do the show live, Tuesdays at 10 p.m. on Spreaker, and then before we send it out to all of our affiliates, we got a chat room going, and it is hopping tonight, pal. A couple of comments from the chat room. Brad Marston wants to know, when was the last time you took a Trump air flight to go see a New Jersey Generals game? Kind of implying that not everything Donald Trump touches is winning. And Dano agrees, saying that the Dems have a huge voter turnout problem and that the Republicans have them on the ropes. If the rhino idiots want to tap out and give it to them, then, that's another story. But Let's take Brad's.
I'm glad
first.
Brad mentioned that, because that's another common Trump bashing technique. The guy was successful at lots of businesses, not so successful at other business ventures. That's pretty much everyone who's successful has failed. Do I need to go with Teddy Roosevelt's Man in the Arena speech? The guy is successful overall. He's worth billions. The few businesses that failed, that the businesses themselves had to file for bankruptcy, not Donald Trump personally, he used the laws of this country that people like Ted Cruz and Marco Rubio and John Kasich all created and got put on the books to his advantage, and there's nothing wrong with that. And Donald Trump admits this.
Trump Air, Trump Steaks, Trump University. There's going to be...
Okay, Trump Building, Trump
How about
Real
Trump
Estate.
Tower? How about Trump Taj Mahal? How about the fact that there happens to be an Atlantic City that exists right now because of a whole city?
Listen, Gene, I could go down a list of things in my life that I've tried to do and
I'm not a Trump guy. Let's be clear, everybody.
Me too, but you know what? The more you bash a guy like Trump, the more you push a guy like me into his corner.
Donald Trump is such a brilliant businessman. He owns the trademark to the phrase Central Park. Not even New York City. The People's Republic of New York City owns that trademark. Trump has it. Look it up. Donald Trump has a limited trademark for Central Park. So if you want to have Central Park jewelry or Central Park Cafe or anything like that, you got to go to Donald Trump. The man is brilliant, and he surrounds himself with brilliance. And you know what?
Which is why I don't know why he hasn't called me yet, but that's a whole different
While
story.
we're talking about Donald Trump, let's take a moment to listen to the interview we did with Scotty Hughes, who is a Trump surrogate, totally unabashed about it. And let's play that one right now while Russ gets to argue in the chat room for a little bit. Here you go.
Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines here at CPAC Day 2. I can't believe my voice is held up this long. And I'm having a little mini reunion with Scotty Hughes right now. Scotty, how you doing?
Do I have to, show pictures from when, 20 years ago when we first met and have to, you see my buck teeth and embarrassing? That's what reunions do for me.
Oh, my goodness. The acne and the bad glasses here. Yeah, the braces, me too. Yeah, I'm totally with you on that.
Yeah, I look so much hotter now than I did then. I'm just saying.
I beg to differ. I'm sure you were hot the whole time. But anyway.
On the important things, what we need to talk about today.
Actually, that's top of my list. But anyway, the second thing that's on my list is I didn't bring the cannolis. They were going to be 3 days old by the time I saw you.
This is the only reason why I'm talking to you.
No.
No, this is the only reason why I'm talking to you. You pay in cannolis. I'm going to leave a horse head in your bed tonight.
Mama Baradelli said, how dare you bring a woman 3-day-old cannolis? That's totally wrong. I got the wooden spoon in the back of the head just for saying that.
Do you understand, since last CPAC, I wake up in 2 in the morning dreaming of those freaking cannolis. You Google my name, guess what commercial comes up in the top 10? That commercial, I don't know how. I don't know the hits it's got. Google my name, and that commercial comes up about me talking about cannolis. I live with the cannolis all year long, baby doll.
I'm going to get you the cannolis as soon as you get back to New York City. I got to ask you.
I'll be there. I'm coming back.
When are you coming back?
I will be there. Actually, I'm bringing my kids for spring break. So we will be there March 28th for the entire week. I'm going to go up there, do some media, some hits, and get some cannolis.
Absolutely. Going to happen. I promise. It's on record now. The big question I got to ask you. Donald Trump blew off CPAC. What's going on?
We have an election tomorrow. We have 4 states right now, 3 of them being caucuses. Historically, we've seen Mr. Trump, caucus states are not his best thing. So how do you handle caucuses that are known for their grassroots politicking? You get in the grassroots. Love this place, but what CPAC is filled with are people who are engaged, who already have their minds made up. He was not coming here to make people's minds up. They were already there. He cares more about the people than the politicos in here. Not that they aren't important to him, but he wanted to get out with the people, give them as much opportunity to meet him tomorrow before they head into their caucuses tomorrow night. How is that a bad thing?
Here's the spin that's coming out. Opponents are saying from the Cruz campaign, the Rubio campaign, that he's not coming here because he didn't want to get booed out of the building, because this is more of a Ted Cruz kind of crowd at CPAC. Do you think this is more of a Ted Cruz kind of crowd, and do you think he would have get booed out?
Well, regardless, if he would have gone in here, what would have been the high phrase of it? Conservatives boo Donald Trump, which there's actually a lot of conservatives here in this room that have come up to me. The large amount of his endorsers are on this row. Within the media, it's conservative fans that are here. So, but just a few of them in there. I listened to the other speeches. Yes, I think you've got a very pro-Cruz crowd in there. But here's the problem. The C word, conservative has been so corrupted right now. When Jeb Bush calls himself the honest conservative, when Lindsey Graham, John McCain, they call themselves conservatives, that is not a conservative to me. So I think we're going to have to not only redefine what the Republican Party is after 2016, but what the word conservative actually means.
It's true. Words are supposed to have meaning. In an election, words have no meaning whatsoever. That happens a lot. I think I think Donald Trump is conservative. He is not the conservative that people wish he was. I think that's the problem. But I think he's a populist, and that's more important because when you talk about populists, they grow the base of parties, and that's how you win elections.
That's actually how we win further on down the road. But why are we here? We have to remember the reason why we are able to grow, it's not because of Donald Trump. It's because of the last 8 years of Republican politicians going out there on the campaign trail saying one thing and then they get to Washington, D.C., and they do absolutely nothing. This Congress has actually gotten along better with President Obama than when it was controlled by the Democrats. There is nothing we have put our foot down and said no to. We just passed an omnibus bill that funds Planned Parenthood. What in the world have we stopped? And you know what? All these people are saying, well, Donald Trump at the top of the ticket, Mitch McConnell's going, you can disavow him. I'm okay with that. You know what? If there are more people turning out in your district and they vote against you, then you're not representing your people and you need to pack your bags and go home.
So give us the insight of what it's like in a room at a strategy session with Donald Trump in the room talking to you, and you're trying to tell him, well, this is how things should be going, and he has another way of talking about it, I would think, right?
Well, I've never been in one of those strategy meetings, I'll be honest with you.
Oh, come on.
I'm not that close campaign. I'm not paid by them. I'm just a surrogate who've been honored enough to travel with them. But let me give you a little secret about Mr. Trump that most people don't realize. He has a different leadership style I've never seen. People say, oh, he's such a narcissist. Oh, he's so big on himself. That's not what he is. I've never seen this before. People would walk in the room, and he said, hey, did you see that press release that Hope put out? Oh, my gosh, she did such a fabulous job. I looked so good in that because of her writing skills. Corey would walk in. Did you see how we hit every single point and we're right on time? Man, he keeps us in shape. There's a reason why we are always on time because Corey is so good at keeping us organized. He was great because the people around him made him great, and he honored and praised them for it. That's why you're not seeing all these disenfranchised employees. I mean, the man right now is responsible for 34,000 jobs at this exact moment. He signs those paychecks. And for that amount of people, you should have crowds out there saying how much they don't like their boss, and you don't have it because they feel a part of the team, just like he wants to make America feel a part of the team as well.
Well, I just want to transition real quick. All the Donald Trump stuff is great. We've got to ask Scotty Hughes. USA Radio, now affiliated with them. Tell us how that's going.
Oh, it's going fantastic. I mean, I love TPNN. Luckily, we're all under the same umbrella. But USA Radio Networks has been phenomenal. But now I get to do that whole radio thing. So that's why I needed my cannolis. I don't have to necessarily worry about being that whole TV-friendly idiot. Okay, I still have to. But I would waste all my calories for just one cannoli that I'm not going to have tonight.
Don't leave my TV. I don't want you to.
I'm not. I'm actually going to be there for the next couple days.
Fantastic. So great catching up with you as always. I'm sorry. I promise I'll do right by you.
Sorry's not good enough.
I'll make it right. I promise. You know I love you.
I don't know if we can do this ever again. This might be our last interview together. Don't do that. No. 3 years. We had a deal. Horsehead, bed, tonight. Sleep with one eye open.
I'm screwed. Goodbye. Scotty, I'm sorry. But yeah, I mean, she gave us some insight into the Donald and how things work, and she seems, of course she's an advocate and she's getting paid to put the spin on it. Speaking of spin, for some reason Debbie Wasserman Schultz is on my TV. I don't know how that happened. Russ, how'd you let that happen?
Her perm is looking terrific.
It's looking huge.
It is very nice.
Yes, it's looking quite lovely.
I think a bird just flew out.
You saw that too, right? Yeah. All right, so listen, catch us up on what you were saying in the chat with the people about Donald Trump and everything. Basically, people got to understand this is how New Yorkers roll, right? That's basically the gist of your argument.
Well, I mean, that's part of it, but would you say that Tom Brady is a loser? Because he hasn't won everything he's ever done?
Against the Giants, he's definitely a loser. I mean, 2-0, baby.
Well,
18-1, never forget, 18-1.
I mean, the point being, Donald Trump overall on your balance sheet is a successful man. Successful businessman. Oddly enough, a successful Republican candidate for president so far.
Oddly enough, a successful ladies' man.
Yes. Well,
oddly enough.
Not so odd. He's a billionaire. Billions of dollars helps you with the ladies.
They do help. They do help.
So, yeah, I mean, I don't know how to... I get the argument that Trump's stakes failed. Okay. Name one successful businessman where the very first business he touched brought him in billions of dollars and, that was it. You might be able to name one or two of them, but the vast majority of business owners fail. And fail again, and fail again, and fail again.
Until they hit on that one or two things that they actually succeed on. And by the way, Donald Trump has not succeeded on just one or two things. It's been quite a few things. I mean, the man owns property everywhere. The man has developed property everywhere. Successfully. And, I get that people hate on success nowadays. They did it to Mitt Romney, if you remember back in 2012. Success is something that I guess we're supposed to loathe in the new America.
And how we've come full circle. They did it to Mitt Romney, and now Mitt Romney's doing it to Donald Trump.
Can we talk about Mitt Romney for a second? The whole buildup of Mitt Romney's going to come out and say something. Oh, this is going to be good. He's going to endorse somebody. He may run himself. Oh, this is going to be good. And next thing you know, he's giving a lecture on how bad Donald Trump is? Are you kidding me? I had to stop at a rest stop in Jersey to listen to Mitt Romney say absolutely nothing?
For you Trump haters out there, which I'm not one of them. I feel like I have to preface this all the time with saying I'm a Cruz guy. But okay, I'm a Cruz guy, but I'm not a Trump hater. For you Trump haters, can someone and call in or say it in the chat room, can you honestly tell me that you think by Mitt Romney coming out and bashing Donald Trump that somehow will hurt Donald Trump?
Oh, and by the way, that phone number if you want to call into the live show, 718-395-2351. That's 718-395-BEL1. If you're in the chat and you want to say something in the room, feel free to say it in the room. But if you want to say it on air, 718-395-BEL1. We'll be looking out for you.
Gene, by the way, Marco Rubio.
Yes.
Marco Rubio attacked Donald Trump, much like many other candidates have done in this primary.
And didn't he learn?
Did he
not see what happened to Rick Perry? Did he not see what happened to Rand Paul? Did he not see what happened with Lindsey Graham?
Even Chris Christie before Chris Christie got converted. I won't be surprised if Marco Rubio will come out and endorse Donald Trump in the next couple of days.
Oh, my goodness.
It's unbelievable. You attack Donald Trump, you stoop to his level, and you wind up getting kicked off the debate stage because you're done. Like, that's it.
Or you get pushed to the edge of it.
I mean, Rubio is less than 10% in all the primaries that we could see these results
in
so
Michigan
far.
Right
he
now.
may pull ahead of 10%, but it's not looking good for him, to be honest. In Mississippi, he's less than 10%.
Mississippi, he's going to be less than 10%. Oh, my good. Are you kidding me?
It's truly
here?
Unbelievable.
And he's the savior? He is the establishment savior?
I mean, if there's one good thing, if you look at the percentages, so the establishment is garnering a whole 8%, basically, and outsider and conservative candidates are getting 92%.
Well, wait a minute here. John Kasich is doing well, if you want to consider him a quote-unquote establishment guy. He's part of the Republican old guard.
I mean, you could. He is one of those guys that can go back and forth. I guess you can label him establishment if you will. So add his what is it? 20%?
20%. Well, 8% in Mississippi, 25%
so less than
in Michigan.
a third of the party. And I would argue that a lot of those Kasich people are not necessarily establishment types, but less than a third of the party in this primary is voting establishment candidate.
Right. Brad in the chat, another great drop-in. Attacking Trump is punching down. And anytime you punch down in any race, doesn't matter what level you're talking about, you're actually bringing yourself down to that level instead of staying above the fray and keeping your people up there with you. I'm sure Marco Rubio lost the respect of a lot of people when he started going after Donald Trump.
When he said he had small hands
and you know what that means and all that stuff. I mean, come on. That's not the way to do things here. Maybe behind enemy lines is how we do things. But
I think we've said worse.
We have absolutely said worse. And speaking of saying worse, we are just about at halftime here, folks. Thanks for listening to Behind Enemy Lines Radio. I'm Gene, he is Russ, and while we got you listening, check us out at www.behindenemylines.radio.us. And if you miss any part of this broadcast, you can check us out on any of our rebroadcast outlets, including WNJC 1360 AM, Philadelphia's Renaissance Station, ICRN, the Internet's Conservative Radio Network, Red State Talk Radio, High Plains Talk Radio and Sackheads Media, K98 Talk. And if you miss us on any of those, you can catch us on demand at Spreaker, iTunes, Player FM, Podbay, TuneIn, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Play Music, and shout out to our newest affiliate that just came in today, Podcast Party.
That's a mouthful. Jim.
That's a new one.
We also have an ad out in the latest edition of Hustler magazine if anybody's interested. On page 72.
We do?
Yes, we
Did
do.
you pay for that one? Because I sure didn't.
You gave me petty cash for
That's
that.
Oh, that's right. I did, didn't I? Oh, man. Oh, man. You know what? I think at this point it's time to play another CPAC interview. Flip a coin for me, pal. You want Marshall Blackburn or you want Ambassador Bolton?
Oh, I want Ambassador Bolton. I love
Ambassador Bolton was the first interview we did at CPAC. We were huddled away in a little corner by the stage area, and it's always great to talk to him. It's become a CPAC tradition for us, Russ. We didn't really talk about specific countries and national security. What we talked about was how the world views us in this presidential election and the differences fundamentally between the Republicans and Democrats as it comes to foreign policy. Take a listen.
Gene Baradelli behind enemy lines here at CPAC 2016 in a private room set aside from the rest of the conference, which is going nuts right now. Standing with Ambassador John Bolton. Thank you so much for coming on the show, sir. Great to see you again.
Glad to be with you. Thanks for having me.
So, kind of a crazy year this year in politics, but I really want to focus on not so much the Donald Trump hoopla, but how the rest of the world is viewing that. Is the Donald Trump campaign and everything going on right now showing a sign of weakness or strength to the world?
Well, I think the rest of the world obviously pays a great deal of attention to what's said in campaigns by presidential candidates. But I think they also are, in most cases, sophisticated enough to know that there's a lot of politics in here as well. That said, I just think it's important for the Republican nomination process, but ultimately in the general election as well, that we have more discussion about foreign and defense policy, because my view is the president's most important job is keeping the country safe internationally. There are many, many other important issues. There's no doubt about that. But we need to hear from these candidates because there are many crises and challenges that will arise in the years ahead that we can't predict today. So people need to know how they think. They need to know what the judgment and character of the candidates is going to be. And so I hope for a lot more of it.
Is there any real difference amongst the candidates that are currently still running on in general foreign policy as far as an overarching perspective on how to handle and their approach to it?
Well, I think there are a lot of differences on specifics on the Republican side, but I think, I agree with some candidates on some things, disagree with them on others, but I think when you look at the gap between what we're hearing in the Republican debate and what the likely outcome on the Democratic side is with Hillary Clinton, and the extent of the gap is enormous. People say, but Hillary Clinton's going to be tougher internationally than Barack Obama was. I think the evidence for that is hard to find. If you read her memoir, Hard Choices, all 600 tedious pages of it.
You poor man.
As I have. There are very few real differences between her and Obama, and I have to say, as a personal matter, I knew her in law school, and she was a radical then, and she's a radical today. So, there's a lot of talk about her trying to modify her positions after she gets the nomination. I don't put anything past her politically, but where her heart is basically the same place as Obama. People need to understand Obama is not an aberration within the Democratic Party on national security issues. He, Joe Biden, John Kerry, Hillary Clinton are all of the same cloth, and that's dangerous for the country, in my view.
Well, what we've seen under President Obama is slashes in military spending almost to the bone, that we can't really handle multiple regional conflicts at all the way we used to. And we're seeing an approach that seems to handcuff the military from engaging this new enemy in the world, in the war on terror, than what I would see a Republican doing. How detrimental would it be to have a Hillary Clinton or a Bernie Sanders presidency for another 4 years continuing those policies? What will be like the real direct ramifications of that you would see?
Well, I think it'll be very serious around the globe, certainly in the Middle East, where we've got spreading chaos, in Eastern and Central Europe, where Russia's belligerent behavior has been so noticeable, in East Asia, where China's trying to take what are now international waters in the South China Sea and make it into a Chinese lake. All of this is of a piece with what I'm talking about during my speech at CPAC, which is how Barack Obama has systematically dismantled the positions of strength that the United States has tried to create for nearly 70 years to provide some measure of order and stability in the world. And we're not doing this for everybody else. We're doing this for ourselves. And if we back away from it, nobody else who is going to do it for us who has our interests at heart. So this is a process that's been going on for 7 years. It will continue for the remainder of his term. If you add another 4 or 8 years on top of it, the effects will be very serious indeed.
Well, just want to take a quick moment. Of course, every time we get together, we have to talk about Bolton PAC, and we have to talk about the strategy for this coming year, especially because it's an election year. How do you see the agenda of Bolton PAC being laid out when you have the election going on? And will Bolton PAC ultimately be backing the Republican nominee?
Well, I certainly plan to support the Republican nominee, and I've said that back from the day when people were thinking perhaps Rand Paul would win, somebody with whom I have a lot of disagreements, but I said even if he got the nomination, I would back the Republican nominee for the reasons we were just talking about. The gap between all of them on the one hand and Hillary Clinton or Bernie Sanders on the other is enormous. But we're going to do again what we did in 2014. We'll be supporting through independent expenditures Senate candidates in key races, and we will be involved at the presidential level. It'll depend on what the geography looks like a little bit later on. But I'm hoping that we'll be able to have resources that permit us to do even more than we did in 2014. We've already raised as much money right now as we did in the entire 2014 cycle, so we're moving ahead.
Which leads me to the next thing I want to tell you is, I want you to tell my audience anyway, is how they can give money to Bolton PAC and how they can find you online and all that stuff. We want them. It's great that you've matched 2014. Let's get over that top of that.
Absolutely. Well, go to BoltonPAC.com. We send out email solicitations all the time, but there's a lot of material on the website about national security. We've got a PAC, a super PAC. There's also the Foundation for American Security and Freedom, a 501c4 organization. So just get online and take a look at us, and we'd love to hear from you. We'd love your support.
Feels like we're on the brink, not only in this election, but in our standing around the world. I want to thank you for coming on the show and talking to us about it, and look forward to talking to you again real soon.
Absolutely. Glad to do it.
You want to talk about punching down? John Bolton on this show, like Brad Morrison said in the chat room, that's punching down. We want to thank Ambassador John Bolton for coming on the show, for actually classing up the joint for a while. And it was a great interview, man.
By the way, John Bolton was an ambassador to what?
The UN.
The UN. And was he confirmed by the Senate? No.
No, he wasn't.
He was not,
right.
Because the Democrats in the Senate refused to give their consent.
That's right.
To one of George Bush's appointments as an ambassador, something that's really not that controversial, especially to the UN. And they're making a big deal about the Supreme Court in the last year of our presidency. We played clips of this last show, or 2 shows ago.
Yes, absolutely.
About the hypocrisy of people like Chuck Schumer.
Yes. Actually, you had the name right the first time. And, of course, then Senator Obama, following up on the same line. And I believe Joe Biden did the same thing.
And this is why you can't have senators running the show. I'm only kidding. I love Ted Cruz. But, all right, let's talk about real quick, Gene. This is the topic I wanted to bring up with you. Get your take on this. I don't know how much you got to watch. Fox News. First of all, I think Fox News is going down the toilet lately, led by Megyn Kelly. She's a disaster. What did you think about the debate, this last one? I have some very strong opinions about it. I think every debate that Fox News has done so far has been a disaster.
Oh, I thought it became a debate between the moderators and Donald Trump.
Yes.
That's what it turned into. Megyn Kelly with those clips, when they did the 3 clips in a row.
Who has a debate with clips?
Apparently this is a new trend. You know what? Russ, do me a favor. We've talked about this before, but it bears repeating. Give the Russell Gallo guide to how a moderator should act at one of these debates.
This is Russ Gallo moderating a debate. Candidate A, Candidate B, the topic is immigration. You both have 3 minutes. Go. That's it.
And you let them go.
You let them go.
And if they're wrong, you let them be wrong. If they're right, you let them be right. But it's not the job of the moderator to fact check for the benefit of the audience. You know what? If the audience wants benefit, go check it out yourself and go look it up for yourself.
Especially with the gotcha crap that Megyn Kelly was pulling. They pulled out... They would ask a question, they would know already what Donald Trump's canned answer was, and then they would have a slide to put up on the screen to try and disprove what he just said. That's not a debate moderator. That's like a gotcha question that some 2-bit hack interviewer would do.
Right. I totally agree with you on this, Russ. A debate should be about the candidates. It shouldn't be about the tricky graphics or the music or the montages. It should be about what the candidates are saying. And you know what? We've become such a media-driven society. And look, we're doing a show right now, and I guess we're part of it, right? But, God, there are so many egos. I'm not just talking about Donald Trump and the people on the stage right now. The egos are at the moderator's table as well, that you almost have to show up the moderator in order to make your point sometimes. It's absolutely ridiculous. And you know what? People in the chat room are agreeing with you on this.
And I'm glad they are, because listen, I can't understand either. You watch Fox News, and you'll see them all patting each other on the back for the whole week after a debate. Yeah, we asked them some very tough questions. That's not your job to ask the very tough questions. You want to get these candidates' opinions and policy stances on issues. That's it.
But let them rise and fall in their own answer.
Let them challenge each other's facts.
You're absolutely right. Let them go at each other. Let them show how good they are.
Didn't Fox News and all the hacks on Fox News go absolutely insane when Candy Crowley on CNN fact-checked
Mitt Romney yes.
during a debate?
But, okay, so now just imagine, as we're watching these debates now, just imagine what they have in store for the general. Who's going to be in favor of who?
No, but what do they have in store? Bret Baier did what was so-called a town hall with Bernie and Hillary. Which don't you think it's funny that we call Bernie and Hillary by their first names, but all the Republican candidates we pretty much call them by their last names?
Well, we're respectful that way.
No, but that's just everybody.
We are some respectful...
But Fox News did what they claimed to be a town hall between those two candidates, and they were all softball questions there, too. I mean, they sort of touched on the email scandal. Listen, Hillary Clinton's gonna be indicted. Take that to the bank, folks.
You know what I want you to do right now, folks? He just said, take it to the bank. I got to tell you about my friend's new website, GoOnRecord.com. Check it out right now at www.GoOnRecord.com. Create an account with the website, and you can put down any position you want. You type it out however you want in your opinion, and then when you click publish, that's the end of it. It's there to be challenged by other people. It's there to be discussed by other people, but you can't change it. You know what? Speaking of going on record and people out there, saying a bunch of crazy and fantastical things, Andre Walker's from townhall.com, the UK correspondent there, is got some pretty good opinions this week himself, talking about Hillary and Bernie, and talking about what's going on across the pond with the European Union and Great Britain. Let me tell you something. Andre Walker is a hoot to listen to. Just the accent. I mean, we're a sucker for accents right now. You know, we got the Brooklyn going on here with me and Russ. But
what accents?
I'm telling you, what accents? Check out Andre's weekly monologue right now.
Hello and welcome. My name's Andre Walker, and your weekly monologue starts right now. This was the week the Spanish government threatened to invade British territory if we vote to leave the European Union. Makes you wonder if Trump wasn't right to suggest walling off Hispanic nations and send them the bill. Well, Mr. Trump, Spain can have a go if they think they're hard enough. Britain is pretty gangster too, you know. I'm lying, of course, because over here we're a little more old school than that. Remember Madrid, as you learnt under the reign of the last Queen Elizabeth. The bigger you are, the armada you fall. But what about the British referendum to leave the EU, or EU, as I prefer to call it? Well, my big black silk top hat goes off to the Hollywood wag who scheduled the release of the film Independence Day 2 on June 24th in UK cinemas. That's the day after we vote on whether to leave the EU. It'll either be a cruel joke or an amazing celebration. Either way, Hollywood can't lose, as ever. Hashtag Independence Day will be trending on every social media platform. Either that or hashtag bring back One Direction because we really love them and we miss them and we love them and we care. Which appears to be the only other British thing that ever excites the loins that call me. But what beautiful loins they are. Beef or pork, it's all good with me. It's also the week the Democrats had their presidential debate in Michigan. The town of Flint is said to be one of the crime capitals of America, with a per capita violent crime rate 7 times that of the national average. There's a real possibility in Flint that Benghazi Clinton and her $300 million bill weren't the only crooks in town, and not even the biggest ones. Unbelievable. Who'd have ever thought it? Flint is also famous for being under a state of emergency for lead poisoning. But always remember, there's nothing quite as poisonous as MSDNC, the left-wing news outlet that always gives the bad guys an easy ride. Ari Melba's reporter, Kirsten Welker, had an embarrassing exchange with Hillary's communications director, Jennifer Palmer area, or something like that. Who cares? Obviously, experiencing delays, Melba cut to Welker, who was caught telling the top Clinton aide and former White House communications director the line of questions she was going to take in the interview. And then to make it worse, Welker had to stop the interview twice due to technical issues, or delays, or gremlins, or a plague of locusts. Well, once again, who cares? Thank goodness nobody watches MSDNC anyway. The debate itself was funny, of course, because Hillary was unable to admit that the problems with American education were down to the teaching unions. Further proof, in my view, that Obama has successfully snubbed out free speech in the land of the free and the home of the brave. I think it would have been more fun to have drunk the lead-infused water in Flint. Well, we all know that Sanders would legalise chemical ingestion. Why not start early? That was the monologue. Just time to announce the results of last week's quiz. We asked, how many troops does it take to storm Benghazi? Bernie from New York answered correctly. None. We've never tried. Congratulations, Bernie. Your Make America Great Britain Again t-shirt is winging its way to you. That's the monologue. See you next week.
Check out Andre's column at townhall.com. Check him out on Twitter at Andre JP Walker. And read Andre's work here, Behind Enemy Lines. Now back to the show.
Gene Baradelli back behind enemy lines here at CPAC 2016, and I have the privilege of meeting up with an old friend of mine, Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee. So good to see you again, ma'am. How are you today?
I am doing great and so thrilled to be here.
So for those of us that weren't privileged enough to see you here at CPAC and the great speech that you gave, why don't you tell everybody about what you said to the thousands that were in the crowd today?
Well, my message is this is a great year. It is a year that is an outsider candidate year. It's going to bring change. The people are the teachers this year. They're sending a message to Congress and to the Senate and saying, get your act together. It is about time. And I love the fact that the people are standing up and taking their government back.
It's great to see. Now, last time we spoke was about foreign policy, and now we're looking towards, I guess, a big election year where a lot of issues kind of get overlooked. But tell everybody about the recent committee hearing that you held, the first of many coming down the pipe. Explain to everybody what's going on.
Right. I chair the Select Committee on Infant Lives, and we are looking at the abortion industry and the fetal tissue procurement organizations, that industry, and the business relationship between the two. And there's been concern about the growth in the procurement industry and profiting from the sale of these tissues and body parts. And of course, it is illegal to profit from the sale of body parts in the United States of America, as it is in most of the Western world. So we're doing kind of a deep dive into that. We started our first hearing this week. It's on the bioethics of fetal tissue research.
And in your experience thus far, are you finding that organizations are being more evasive to what the committee is demanding, or are they being cooperative?
Well, there's some of both. I've issued 30 document requests. I had to follow that with 3 subpoenas, one to University of New Mexico, one to STEM Express, and one to Southwest Women's Options, but they received the subpoenas, and we will continue with document requests and, if necessary, subpoenas to get the information.
It sounds great. We'll definitely be following the progress of that. But obviously the big story here at CPAC, a lot of controversy surrounding Donald Trump, and Politico had a story about that. What is your feeling in general about the 2016 presidential election?
I think people are very angry, and it's a righteous anger in my mind. They're justified to be angry because we have not been meeting their expectations. So I think this is a good thing that you have somebody that is raising issues. It's, as I said, an outsider year. I think Trump or Cruz will be the nominee.
Now, not forgetting about that we have congressional elections and Senate elections and the idea of a rising tide lifting all boats. Do you feel like that a Donald Trump at the ticket, or as other radio shows are going on around us, whether a Donald Trump on the ticket or a Ted Cruz on the ticket, will hurt candidates like you or other candidates that are running on the congressional level?
No, it's not going to hurt, because I think what you've seen, look at what is happening with the vote totals. Republican turnout is up everywhere. In the first 4 states, it was up 25%. And then you also look at the Democrat turnout, it was down 26%. So you've got such a wide spread there. We're up, they're down. I tell you what, if Republicans were down 26%, you would have all the mainstream media out there saying, oh my goodness, look at this. You know, their party is imploding. But of course, that's not what's happening.
And the spin is going on the Democratic side because their lack of variety and lack of parity in their campaign pales in comparison to what the Republicans have put forth. And it's really been a year where you've seen a great variety of candidates and a lot of voices and a lot of opinions out there.
That's right. And that diversity and that big tent serves us very well.
And speaking of a big tent, we all know on the show that money and people is what drives elections. We want to make sure that we can get as much money and people behind you as possible from our show. Tell everybody where they can get a hold of you, where they can donate and get a hold of your social media and all that stuff.
Oh, well, it is MarshaBlackburn.com and Vote Marsha on Twitter and Marsha Blackburn on Facebook.
And on a personal note, the last time we were together was in New York. I'm glad we were here in D.C. But your interview with us was the reason why our show has been growing so much, and we thank you so much for that and all the support you gave us.
Absolutely. Delighted to do it and look forward to being with you again very soon.
And that was Congresswoman Marsha Blackburn from the great state of Tennessee, joining us from CPAC. Another one of the great interviews that we took home with us from that great event.
Another great interview that Gene had me not participate in.
Well, listen, I mean, some of us want to go work and some of us want to go drink. I mean, I'm not going to say who did what, but I think it's obvious. But in all seriousness, well, you were working during CPAC, and you came down for the last night to see everybody and to glad hands and network and all that stuff. And I'm glad that you did, man. I really am. I did all the work, you had all the glory. It works out perfectly for us all the time.
Brian Antico in the chat room. Is SEAL Team Trump going to be a real thing? SEAL Team Trump, I love it. I'm going to start that hashtag. Brian, I'll give you credit.
That's fantastic. Well, listen, it's time once again to play that game we play on the show just about every primary night. And by the way, next week's another primary night for the show. So tune in Tuesday at 10 p.m. Eastern Time right here on Spreaker. And you'll hear it, and you can tune in at www.BehindEnemyLinesRadio.us. But it's time to play the game we play after every show, and that's Keep 'em or Dump 'em. And I think you know who we're talking about, Russ. Let's start with John Kasich. Should he fold up his tent and go home, or should he keep on plugging away?
I mean, in all honesty, I don't really see a reason for Kasich or Rubio to stay in. So I might as well just...
Okay, so dump them both.
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, their only hope at this point is to get to the convention and hope that Trump somehow falls short of the 1,200 and change delegates he needs. If that's their strategy, I don't get how they think they would be the selection of the party.
I think their strategy is that they have to actually win delegates to force that to happen.
Yeah, I mean,
come on now.
The race is over for these guys.
All right, the chat room saying dump them as well for both of them. Listen, it's become a zero-sum game for everybody not named Trump at this point. If you think that you are the candidate to get virtually all of the support of everybody else who's out there, then you should stay in. Can John Kasich get all of Ted Cruz's support for him?
No.
I think the answer there is no. Can Marco Rubio get all of Ted Cruz's support to go to him?
Definitely.
I think the answer is definitely no. Can Ted Cruz get Kasich's people to go to him?
Most of them.
Most of them, but not all of them. Some of them is going to spill over to Trump, and you know what? Some of them are going to stay home. The couch will win. Can he get Rubio's people? I think yes. I think Ted Cruz is the last hope. If you are a Trump denier, if you are a Trump hater, your best hope is Ted Cruz right now because he's the only one that can do it. I'm loving our chat room today. It's really interactive,
and we'll
man.
see. By the way, like I think that let's call Trump's bluff. Trump has repeatedly said he wants Rubio to drop out, and he thinks it's a two-man race. And he just wants to face Cruz one-on-one. Call his bluff. Let's see what happens. Listen, at the end of the day, it's a shame that it went on this long. But if it was just Trump versus Cruz early on, the likelihood is that Cruz would be our nominee. Now it's late in the game. Now, even if Cruz and Trump are the last two men standing after tonight, which it's not likely that that's going to be the outcome, if they were the two last men standing tonight, it's almost impossible mathematically for Cruz to win enough delegates, from now till the end.
But it's a zero-sum game now. You can't hope to get part of the people that come over. You got to get them all. You can't let... I mean, Donald Trump is not broken the 50% mark yet in any of these primary states tonight. That's his downfall right now. That's where he's at.
Be careful you don't fall into the trap, because what a lot of people have been saying that hate Trump... A lot of people have... By the way, excuse me. A lot of people have an irrational hatred of Trump. Much like
absolutely.
The Bush derangement syndrome, there's a Trump derangement syndrome where people have this irrational hatred of Trump. And they'll say things like, well, he's only got 40% of the vote. That means that, 60% of the party is voting against him. Okay. So let's use that. Let's use your logic on that. And I'm not saying Eugene. I'm just saying the person making
I see you pointing at me. I was getting nervous.
So then a guy like Marco Rubio, who's getting 8% in a place like Mississippi tonight, dude, that means that 92% of people are voting against you in the Republican primary. So I don't get that logic.
All right, so by that logic, if you're not supporting Vermin Supreme, does that mean that you are against stopping gingivitis? That's your logic right there, isn't it?
Is that a pop culture reference? Because I'm
Vermin
lost
Supreme, man. He's running for president. Where have you been?
I'm gone.
You're gone. All right, well, you know what? Since you're gone, it's time for some final thoughts. You take yours first, pal.
I have to give credit where credit is due. In this hop-in chat room tonight, Ann Gallo, sister of yours truly, and new contributor to Behind Enemy Lines.
Yes, she doesn't know it yet, though.
She owes us a few articles. She's got to catch up.
50 scalps and at least one blog post.
She brought up a good point that I forgot all about. Mayor de Blasio in New York City.
The People's Republic
of New York City. The People's Republic of, you always have to add that, signed into law that from now on, transgendered people or anyone identifying as any gender they wish without having to show ID will be allowed to use any bathroom in a public place that they wish. So what I started doing was I just started using ladies' rooms. I leave the seats up in all the stalls. I'm having a blast, and they can't do anything about it. Equality, it's a mofo.
Oh, man. How do you top that one?
And that's why Donald Trump is the man, by the way. A lot of people have these thoughts, in their heads, and they're afraid to say things like that or do things like that. Everybody knows that women have it. They cry about a lot of things publicly, okay?
And here it comes. And by the way, all you women out there who want to write to the show and voice their opinion,
women don't have it that damn bad, especially not in the United States of America, right? Your bathroom's always cleaner than ours. People freak out when the toilet seat gets left up. Well, guess what? When the toilet seat is down and we gotta pee, you know what we have to do? We have to touch the toilet seat and lift it up. So if you gotta pee, you gotta touch the toilet seat and put it down. Equal rights is a mofo.
My God.
Welcome aboard.
He is the voice of an angry America, folks. That's Russ Gallo right there. My final thought's going to be a little more poignant because the conservative movement lost a true patriot this past week. You hear me do the plugs all the time, and you hear me talk about Red State Talk Radio. Primo Mondone, the principal of Red State Talk Radio, left us this week. And the movement is poorer for his for the loss of him. Getting choked up even thinking about it because Primo gave us our shot here on Red State Talk Radio. And we want to wish his family the best and the whole Red State Talk Radio family, of which we are a part of. We are going to be sticking together, and we're going to be continuing Primo's dream of continuing Red State Talk Radio. And I'm so happy that Don and Donna over there are going to be getting help from Scott and Leonora. And for those who don't know what I'm talking about, check out redstatetalkradio.com, and you'll see all the new faces and all the shows there for what's going to be going on there. But the fight goes on, even though we lost a great patriot this week. And again, all the best to the Mondone family and everybody affected by his loss. And now that I brought everybody down, Russ, I guess it's time to shut this thing down as well. I want to thank everybody for listening to the show. By the way, check out www.behindmealinesradio.us for all the great interviews that we've done this week. We're going to start uploading them at least once a day, or as much as I can, given my work schedule. We have great interviews with Van Hipp, with Sean McCutcheon, with a whole bunch of great people. And we'll also relay the story about how Sharon Angle got to hang out in our suite and do a little business. There's going to be a lot going on there. But until then, Russ, it's time to shut this mofo down.
Waterboarding and worse. Oh my God, I think this guy might actually win. Gene, shut it down.
All right, folks. We're going to go for the evening, but check us out next week. Until then, have a safe and pleasant evening.
Our position's been compromised. It's time to roll out. Report for debriefing at www.behindenemylinesradio.us and look for regular communications via Facebook and Twitter at BEL_radio. You are the resistance. Behind Enemy Lines. Part of the Conservative Commandos Radio Network. A rock radio production. Copyright 2015. Back in 7 days. Out.